everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on an antecedent concept that is, honestly, notorious for tripping up even the most prepared students on exam day. We're talking about the abative effect of a motivating operation, and we are going to master antecedent control together. This is one of those foundational concepts that requires absolutely crystal clarity, because if you don't have it locked down, the test creators will for sure use it against you. But don't worry, by the end of this explainer, you're going to have a rock-solid understanding of exactly how the environment suppresses behavior before a response is even emitted. So before we even get to the solution, we kind of have to look at the problem, right? Why do so many candidates fail antecedent questions? Well, the single biggest trap out there is confusing antecedent control with consequence strategies. You see, candidates often look at a scenario where a behavior decreases, and their brain just immediately jumps to what happens after the behavior. But antecedent control is entirely about what happens before. If you mix up what happens before a behavior with what happens after it, you're going to get the question wrong. It's really that simple. We need to completely shift our focus to the front end of the behavioral continuancy, the ABC loop, and zero in on what happens before the behavior ever takes place. Okay, so the absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly what is operating on that front end. Let's ground ourselves in the big picture for a second, the motivating operation, or the MO. I want you to visualize the environment before a response is ever emitted. That is where the MO lives. It's an antecedent condition. It literally sets the stage for everything that follows. It's the environmental factor that occurs before you even make a single move, before a behavior happens, and way before any consequence is delivered. Grasping the MO's place in time, that's your very first step to mastering the abative effect. Building on that, I want you to remember this golden rule. Every single motivating operation has a dual effect. It does two things at the exact same time. First, it has a value-altering effect. This basically means it changes what a reinforcer is actually worth to you in that specific moment. Second, it has a behavior-altering effect. This means it changes how you behave right now in the present moment to either get or avoid that reinforcer. So it changes the value and it changes the behavior. These two arrows always fire together whenever an MO is present. Right, now let's isolate things a bit. When we talk about the abative effect, we're looking strictly at the behavior-altering side of the equation. The abative effect is an immediate decrease in the current frequency of a behavior that has historically been reinforced by that specific object or event. I really want you to focus on the strong directional language here. Think of a big, bold, downward arrow. Lower frequency. Immediate suppression. The behavior is pushed down, right now, in the current environment. To really make this stick, let's step away from the clinical textbook definitions for just a second and look at a super relatable, real-world scenario. Think about the classic example of eating a massive, heavy dinner. You push your plate away, maybe unbutton your pants a little bit, and think, man, I'm too full to even look at food. I mean, we've all been there. This is actually the perfect everyday illustration of an abative effect in action. Your environment, specifically your internal environment of being completely satiated, is doing all the work before any new behavior even occurs. So here's the exact chain reaction playing out. Food ingestion leads to fullness, which literally equals a zero behavioral probability for seeking food. When you eat that huge dinner, you become fully satiated. That ingestion actively abates or, decreases the current frequency of any behaviors related to getting more food. Things like walking into the kitchen, opening the fridge, or browsing a delivery app on your phone. The probability of you emitting those food-seeking behaviors right at that exact moment drops to absolute zero. The abative effect has completely suppressed the behavior. But wait, here's a really critical nuance. Just because the behavior has dropped to zero does not mean the skill has somehow vanished from your repertoire. I mean, you haven't suddenly forgotten how a refrigerator works, right? You still know perfectly well how to stand up, walk to the kitchen, grab the handle, and open the fridge door. Your physical and cognitive skills are fully intact. The difference is simply that the motivating operation has exerted its abative power. The motivation has dropped, so the behavior is suppressed. Skill and motivation are two completely different things, and it's so important to keep them separated in your mind. All right, lean in closely for this next part, because I need to issue a pretty serious warning here. What is the absolute most common exam trap related to this concept? Well, the test creators know exactly how human brains process behavioral decreases, and they design clinical scenarios specifically to trick you. They'll present a scenario where behavior stops, and then they'll just wait to see if you fall into the trap of misidentifying exactly why it stopped. And here is your conceptual rescue. On the exam, you must never, ever confuse an abative effect with extinction. Extinction is a consequence strategy. The reinforcement is completely cut off after the behavior happens. The abative effect, however, is an antecedent event. That means the motivation itself has dropped before the behavior even has a chance to occur. Extinction means the payoff is gone. The abative effect means the desire is gone. Keep this contrast permanently locked in your mind when you sit down for your exam. So, we've broken down the definitions, we've looked at real-world examples, and we've successfully navigated the biggest exam trap out there. But are you ready to actually conquer the clinical scenarios? Knowing the theory is one thing, for sure, but applying this newly acquired analytical clarity to tricky, multifaceted exam questions, that is where the real test lies. Do you feel totally confident in your ability to spot an ablative effect hidden deep inside a dense paragraph? To really prove that readiness, you need to test your armor right now, while all this is completely fresh in your mind. Head over to BXM Education, complete today's Level 3 quiz block, and make sure you watch the full video rationale module. That's how you truly master the way test creators design clinical scenarios around these exact differences. Put your knowledge to the test, solidify these concepts, and ensure you are absolutely bulletproof on exam day. Before you go, ask yourself this the very next time you lose the urge to do something you usually enjoy. Did your skill disappear, or did your environment just silently pull the strings of your motivation? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.